We'll do a bunch of stuff. I love that tune.
Yeah, I have been slightly inconsistent though, Barney, so don't worry about that. Alright, so today there's no monologue because of reasons. We can get into that in a second, but I think we're just going to have a bit of a more unstructured kind of hangout. Instead of having a stream that's trying to pin down a certain idea, I think um, we can talk a little bit about Big Bear's criticisms of me. I did check. I spelled Moraes correctly. It's so it's a little bit confusing when you see it written down because it is exactly the same as Moors. You'd think it would be pronounced Moors. So I did double check myself. I did spell that correctly. I checked. And I think he's right. I want to address. I wasn't analogizing to the human body about bile and spleen. I was using the turn of phrase to vent spleen, coined of course by the great William Shakespeare, and it is more out of use than I expected. I do tend to speak in and write in a slightly more old school fashion, but that's because my early reading was like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and stuff like that, because I am a massive nerd. So we can. I just wanted to address that right away. But he does. He. I think I'm right about this. This idea of venting. I'm going to write probably after the stream about that. And there's a. I'm a little bit paranoid, so I'm going to check this right here. Okay. This is weird. Alright, so we should be good. We should be good. Alright, I will tell the Bear App people that I'm live. See if anyone wants to come. Much less exciting, I think, when I don't have I don't have as much to talk about. Yeah. Well, I'm not getting my usual audience right now, which is well, you're here, of course, Barney, which is nice. But yeah, I can when if there's more people later, I can go into Owen's criticisms of me a little more in trying to find the idea. His criticisms were extremely helpful, um, and I'm super glad that he did. It would be I'll start. So I'm honestly very glad that he did that on stream. I am a little bit sad that the stream he with that was taken down because I think it's an important idea. So I think what I'm going to do is refine it and then send it to him again because I think this could if more people thought about it like I do, I think it might actually change the way people interact. So we need to be able to recognize two extremely damaging things, I think. We need to be able to recognize mercenaries or ingenuine people. Wait, tab is on. Should not have said aloud. Sorry. I think we need to be able to recognize. We need to be able to recognize when people do not actually hold the ideas that they espouse. We need to be able to recognize when people are being ingenuine about their accusations against other people of hatred. We need to be better at recognizing that. The next thing that we need to be able to recognize is genuinely hateful people who I will classify as misanthropes for reasons that are well known by now. Well, maybe not well known. I should probably reiterate this idea at every opportunity until it is well known. The fact that every individual human being is differentiated to such a degree from every other individual human being that there is no other human being like that individual human being means that every single human being has at least one thing in common. That is their individuality. And that is the most important thing about them because no one else shares it. And so if you hate a certain aspect of humanity, you won't be able to separate that aspect from all humans. Yeah, it's probably because I wasn't being very consistent last week. It was not a great week. Barney. So since and since you won't be able to separate that hatred from all humans because you will see the things that you hate in all humans, including yourself, then you will end up just being a misanthrope. But no one is actually capable of surviving contact with hatred for very long, so you have to vent it out. And we don't let you do that to individuals, but a group doesn't have a face, and so there's always a group that's like the scapegoat, the acceptable receptacle for hatred. So when I reformulate this argument, I want to leave out venting spleen, and I want to leave out the mention of bile, because that's archaic and people might think I'm actually talking about human anatomy. So I'll reformulate that tonight, and I will read it out tomorrow, I think. Ah, there you are, Dom. You've missed all of the things, Dom. So I'm just talking about how Owen criticized my essay, and I think it was very useful criticism. Exactly what I was looking for. Dom, I moved it earlier because I thought it earlier was better. Yeah, I think he's right about leaving. There are a couple of things where, yeah. Um, thank you, Dom. There are a couple of turns of phrase that are a bit archaic, and I don't like since I read a lot. I like to read Shakespeare and Tolkien and other, sort of older works, things from the English canon. I like to those are my entertaining books. More and so those are my entertaining books. So I pick up a lot of sort of strange turns of phrase that most people won't get, such as venting spleen or have at thee. I still love have at thee, and that actually means defend yourself, and I love that. I think people should use it more. Also, ninny hammer. That's a great word. People should use that word as well. So yeah, I want to know if tagging blast on the Twitter is worth doing, and I also want to know who the bears I should tag are, because I'm not sure. That would be helpful if you could leave that in a comment later, or see, this is what happens when I don't have a monologue. Let's just talk about ranch life for a minute. Chickens are great. They just they eat bugs and forage, and they give you eggs, and all you have to do is keep their food and water full and the hen house clean. And they even put themselves away at night, and you just close the door so that raccoons don't get into the coop and kill them. Chickens are great. They don't do it hardly anything that you don't want them to. They're really easy to pen up. You build a pen around the chicken coop, and when they come out in the morning, bam, they're in the pen. And you don't have, they're really easy to confine. The chickens are super, super easy. And they eat your kitchen scraps. The chickens are great, man. You should get a chicken. Everyone should have a chicken. However, sheep are dicks. They are ornery, and they smell bad, and they are not cooperative, and you have to work really hard to get them to respect the fence. They'll charge right through an electric fence unless you have a really strong fence charger on there, and it'll zap them hard. But sheep are dicks. And one of them gets through the fence, they're all coming through. I guess you can figure out what I've been doing. So, yeah. We now have 4 sheep. We plan on breeding these 4 sheep so that they can have lambs, and apparently you get 2 lambs per ewe, which is kind of blowing my mind a little bit because that's a lot of meat. Now, confining the sheep wouldn't be such a big deal, except my little brother is getting married like in 2 weeks, and trying to deal with confining the sheep to a specific pasture while also getting the event area on our property ready for the wedding has been something of an ordeal, because I'll be working like on one part of the property installing an AC or something, which, by the way, I need to I need to finish that job. And then you hear a bell on the other end of the property, and I liked Dinesh's book about fascism and its history and the fact that it is actually socialistic. It's just it's like every time these idiots come up with a new kind of system of socialism, they try to put a new spin on it. Every time they do it, because the original true Marxism is obviously unworkable, so every time they implement a new socialism, they implement a new version of it. And so in this version, in fascism, the idea is to have experts in charge of the economy and to allow them to have profits from in order to incentivize them to run the economy well. So you have a state derived sort of overarching directive for the economy. The state tells the economic people, okay, we want our economy to go sort of in this direction. Now you guys manage it. That's basically fascism in a nutshell. So the thing is in order to pay for this, the government still takes everyone's stuff and then redistributes it to all the workers equally. So it's a little bit like what would you call it? Neo aristocracy, where you have a class who gets more rewards than the rest of the economy because they're in a managerial position, and apparently that needs to be rewarded, or else the entire economy will collapse. But if you read about how Germany's economy was going during the Second World War, it'll collapse anyway because centralization never works. I don't know what you're saying about Barney, but yeah, like empathy is like this weird thing to me. I think that it's important to be able to understand and mirror other people's feelings in your own head so that you can act in consideration of those feelings. Like an autist like me isn't particularly good at that, but well, you do need some people who just don't care, who can't care about that kind of thing. But you also, I think, you need most people to be able to consider how the social world kind of works, and sometimes it's important to avoid upsetting people because emotions don't change facts, but that doesn't mean that emotions aren't real. If you go around just insulting people, then no one's going to want to work with you because you make them feel crappy. So, like, in that sense, being conscious of how other people feel about you is important. But where you run into problems is if your consideration of other people gets in the way of acting in accordance with what you think is true, because truth will always win out over feelings in the end. And that's not always a good thing, because if you keep following your feelings in opposition to the truth for long enough, then the truth will just be that everyone starves to death. So using empathy, using people's ability to understand and act in consideration of other people's feelings in order to deny or contravene or attempt to avoid reality or truth will only, it doesn't actually avoid or change what reality is. All it does is it makes the consequences worse and more surprising. Because if you know a tiger's coming, you can get ready for the tiger. You can build a wall. You can distribute spears. You can make loud noises. You can post a lookout because you know there's a tiger coming. But when someone says a tiger's coming, the women in the village start yelling at you and saying you're a bigot and how dare you say that there's dangers in the woods. It's where we gather strawberries. You're just a mean, horrible person, and you should shut up now. And if you actually do shut up, if you actually do, be quiet and not warn people about the tiger coming, and if nobody is preparing for the tiger, then when the tiger does show up, it just mauls everyone because nobody has spears. There's no wall. There was no lookout. Right? So, in this analogy, reality is the tiger. Because reality isn't always exactly friendly to human survival. In fact, throughout most of history, we've been eking out a living, just barely scraping by, just pouring blood and sweat into the earth and scraping out the meager corn and wheat needed to just have our caloric intake not be in the negative. And it's only been in the past like 300 years that we've actually had the technology to live comfortably. Could you imagine, like, this room is better than any room that a king would enjoy in like the 15th century, or like not even that long ago. Hey, Mama Bear. Hey, Boulder Bear. I mean, of course, the advent of liberty is what actually did it. And surprise, surprise! If you can't enslave other people and you have to do your own work, then that just unleashes the creative potential of man to invent stuff to make working super easy. Like in the 1800s, if you wanted to go harvest wheat, you had to get a big scythe, and it's like what the Grim Reaper has, and that's what reaping was. You take the scythe and you swing it at the stalk of the grain, and it falls down, and you go through a whole field like that by hand, and that's what slaves were for. But then you get rid of slavery, and then suddenly you have to do it yourself, or you have to pay someone. You don't want to pay anyone to do that. And then they invent a horse-drawn combine harvester. Well, yeah, I think everyone's ignorant of something, Barney. I don't know everything. I happen to know economics really well. because I'm autistic as fuck. Oh, and shout out to Eric Nimmer. I am still sorry for putting you in timeout. I did not mean to do that. I wasn't getting notifications from your channel for a couple of days. So I went to click on, to tap, not click on because I was on my phone, tap go to channel, and I'm a klutz, and I missed. So I'm sorry, Eric. Very, very sorry. I never put anyone in timeout on my own stream, so I wouldn't do that to you. But I also have only ever had one troll who might have actually not been a troll. We did talk about my opinion on homosexuality and how I don't really understand it, and how I think that their recreational activity looks like it would hurt. It just doesn't look all that pleasant to me, but you know, I've never tried it, so it might be very pleasant. Who knows? They know, apparently, but I don't, and it scares me, so I don't want to try. But lots of things scare me, and I don't want to try, like bees. I don't want to try being a beekeeper, because I'm terrified of bees. I have a literal phobia of bees. Mom has a beehive, and I won't go within 50 feet of it. They terrify me. I think they will swarm me and sting me to death. I know that's extremely unlikely, but I can't escape that thought. It's just there, and I'm terrified. And it might have something to do with being attacked by an entire nest of yellow jackets when I was 3, and it might have something to do with that. Dom, that's hilarious. It might also have something to do with that Killer Bee movie in the 90s, you know, where they were hiding in the basement and killer bees were out to kill everyone. I saw it on TV when I was like 6, and it scared the bejeebers out of me. So I've only had that one troll who might not have actually been a troll. And yeah, I know, Bernie, lots of animals can actually sense your fear state, and they're more likely to attack you if you're in a fear or aggression state, because those pheromone signals are very close to each other. That doesn't surprise me, Dom. A lot of people are allergic to wasp stings. It's a very common allergy, and it's serious, but it is one of the lower risk allergies out there. Like, you know, my cousin is allergic to mangoes and pistachios, and like once there was a nut stand in the mall, and she's like walking by it, and she started kind of wheezing a little bit just from breathing near it. You're, Dom, you would actually be an allergen, not an allergy. All right, I got a little. Should I go over? So yeah, this kind of wild, unstructured thing. Yeah, sheep are dicks. They're mean. Well, they're not mean. They're just ornery, and they're less easy to control than all of the analogies to sheeple would imply. They like to run away from you. They don't just, you know, sit there and let you treat their wounds. They don't, and they don't like it when you try and examine them for ticks or abscess. Oh, sweet, Dom. I love those. You want me to come? All right. What is tomorrow? Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. Is that after Crowder? Awesome. You know, just make sure you get me the link. I will try and make my computer work with Hangouts. It's been kind of a dick. Uh, I'll try to bring something interesting to the table. Like maybe we can talk about the fact that the what's that report called? Guys, what's the intelligence IG report? I think, yeah, that IG report, and how it confirms that there were FBI and CIA agents conspiring to prevent Donald Trump from taking the presidency by means of implication in various fake scandals, including the long debunked Steele dossier. We could talk about that a little bit. Holy shit! Is that the real Eric Nimmer? Is that the real Eric Nimmer in my chat? Yeah, this is. Please don't judge my stream based off of this stream. I was fixing swamp coolers a little bit late, and I didn't stop working in time to. I didn't have time to prepare my monologue, so I didn't. I'm not prepared, and so we're a little bit unstructured today, and we're not trying to nail down a specific idea. I'm just trying to keep up the consistency. No, Eric, don't. I know you're joking, but that's straight up not true. I can't do the screen sharing stuff. Uh, I have a much smaller audience, and I am going into today extremely unstructured. So, like, yeah, that's just factually incorrect, Eric. Your stream was much better, and I enjoy your streams tremendously, especially when you're talking about. Well, yeah, you keep on shaming people for not ironing their shirts, so I think it's important to not only wear an ironed shirt that's been hanging up in the wardrobe, but also properly tie a tie with it. Next, you're going to tell me that Eric isn't even black, Dom. He's actually green, and just photoshops himself black. Yeah, I did show up to one stream in an undershirt once, and I was very embarrassed because the next day you were talking about how wrinkly ass niggers need to learn how to dress properly, and so I felt shamed. And since then I have never not worn a proper shirt to a stream because I need to dress for work. It's your own challenge, Eric. It's your own challenge. And since you're here, I will once again apologize for putting you in timeout. I am a clumsy retard, and it was entirely accidental, and I'm very, very sorry. If I can suffer through this warmth in a real shirt, Dom, then you can at least wear a polo. I mean, I don't think that dry dogs smell like anything. I am not a socialist at all, Eric. How dare you? I hate socialists. Fascists get the Yeah, and fascists get the helicopter too. Whir. Helicopter intensifies. See, that doesn't count as an undershirt, so you're good. If it has a collar, then it's a shirt. If it has no collar, it's an undershirt, and you should feel shame. According to the Eric Nimmer rules of appropriate dress. By the way, I still have no idea what the hell starch is for. Zero clue. But no, collared shirts objectively look better than undershirts do, and I don't like I have shirts with logos on them, but I don't like being a billboard for someone else's deal. And I especially don't like the idea of paying someone else money to advertise their stuff. I fell for that trick in middle school a little bit because I thought the Volcom logo looked really cool. But then I realized that I was basically a walking billboard for Volcom, and that made zero sense to me. Yeah, I even have a fancy new waistcoat. Uh, I now own 3 waistcoats, and they're great. I love waistcoats. They make you look just a little bit nicer, but they don't make you sweat more like a blazer would. So yeah, well, a vest includes like sweater vests. It includes like cold weather vests. It includes safety vests. So I say waistcoat because it's more precise. But yeah, it's like there's no there's I actually agree with Eric on this point. There's no reason for a man to not look nice. It doesn't take very much effort to put on a tie. It doesn't take very much effort to iron your shirts. It's like it is one of the easiest things you can do, and it makes a massive difference. The difference between just slouching around in an undershirt and wearing a shirt that has a collar is huge. I you just walk around the street and you see just a dude who's wearing who's wearing ill-fitting ill-fitted pants and an undershirt, and he's got someone else's logo across his chest, and he's just slouching around, and he's got no pride in himself. And then you see a guy who's wearing a shirt tucked in with a belt on his pants and a tie, and he's standing up straight and he's got his eyes forward. You just know, which guy do you want to be? Well, you should feel bad about that, Barney, because everyone should own an iron. Like if you're a single man, learn how to iron. If you're married, then you need to have a serious talk with your wife. Yeah, he said it would go up right after his stream. I haven't seen it yet. I will watch. Yeah, we've only got 20 minutes left of the stream, and it's awfully warm in here. I want to open the sliding door, but I respect you guys too much to give you a worse audio than it already is. And your audio sounds way better than mine, Eric. So that's another thing to add to the objective list of things that are better about Eric's streams than Field's streams. And I didn't even do my intro properly, which was bad. I had no monologue. I had no and I forgot to do the intro entirely. Just being all self-critical today. Yeah. So Well, like that one, I'll say, your blue jeans, really? Iron in your blue jeans? That's a little. That's a little much. All right, iron your shirt. Yeah, that's like required. Walking around in a wrinkly shirt is almost as bad as walking around in your undershirt and you look like a slob. And I admit it, I've looked like a slob before. I don't feel as good about myself when I do that though. I feel like a slouch. And it doesn't communicate responsibility or attention to detail or consideration of other people's visual preferences. Well, if you say so, Dom. But you already have a woman, so you don't have to. You don't have to be as attractive as I need to be. Well, you should get a suit dry clean, Barney. You shouldn't be ironing your own suit. That shit needs to be professionally cleaned and ironed. Like iron your own shirts, and if you have slacks, you iron slacks. But if you have like a full on suit, that you should not be putting that through your own washer ever. Are you saying hashtag truth to you've already got a woman, you don't need to be as attractive as me? Well, lucky you. You got those connections, Dom. Yeah, it's a really good way to ruin your jacket is actually put it in your washer. Like, I can't believe anyone would put a blazer in the washer. Why would you do that? I thought so, Dom. And if you're going to, if you got clothes specifically for doing manual labor in, you can skip the ironing because you're just going to get dirt and mud and grease all over it anyway. Just get like some Carhartt stuff that looks good, looks halfway decent, even if it's covered in dirt, grease, mud, dust, and stuff like that. I think that Carhartt work shirts look really good, short sleeves. Like just always have a collar though. Always have a collar. What do you do with the suit, Boulder Bear? You dress up when you get home. Well, all right. Dear God, no, that would not end well at all. The G forces alone. Children in the washing machine. That is horrible. Boulder Bear, you do tile and floor. Oh, in a suit, not to a suit. Okay. Yeah, you said try to do what I do. I a suit. Yeah, Boulder Bear. Boulder Bear, you don't have to wear a suit while working. Just put on a shirt that has a collar and tuck it into your jeans. Look decent when you're talking to the customer. And you're always going to be dealing with a woman, so you should dress well, not always. A lot of the times if you're doing if you're doing residential work, then a lot of the times you're working when you're going to be dealing with a woman. So you might as well yeah, so you might as well dress the way the women like and they'll treat you nicer. Yeah, torn jeans or ruined jeans. Dom, you have a problem. Why on earth would you spend $125 on a pair of jeans? That is just an inordinate amount of money. Yeah. For industrial work, it's a little bit different though, because you're working so hard that, and in such positions and with such equipment that whatever you wear will be ruined instantly. So my dad's company just issues regular T-shirts, and just the fact that he's an industrial construction means that a lot of sparks are flying. So those just get ruined. Putting on a twill shirt will just get ruined the first day you wear it. So that is a little bit differently. That's excellent, Boulder Bear. If you're doing industrial construction, it's a little bit different because the work you're doing will definitely ruin your clothes. Like no matter what, just welding slag and sparks and grease, it's unavoidable. So it's acceptable if you're doing industrial work and construction to wear a cheaper garment that you know is going to get ruined anyway. But if you're just walking around the street, like why would you not want to look better? Why would you? It's proven, and it's unfortunate, but look, a lot of people are really, really shallow. You will notice that there is a marked difference in how you get treated if you put on a polo shirt and nice shoes to what, or if you put on a tank top undershirt and flip flops. I promise you, people will treat you differently, and it kind of sucks how shallow it is. Like, and you don't even have to put a lot of effort into looking nice for people to treat you in a vastly different way. Like when I'm working, I wear a black twill shirt, a black flat cap, and my red safety glasses. And I mostly just get kind of look past, which is fine because when I'm out in those clothes, I'm just running errands. I don't want to be bothered. But if I go out for any other purpose, grocery shopping or going to hang out at a brewery or a winery or whatever, I put on a nice shirt and strangers will actually talk to me. It's insane. Yeah, commercial work does pay better. It's a little bit more feast and famine though, Barney. Either the contracts are there or they're not, and it's not exactly possible to get them in a consistent way because it depends on where most of the businesses are in the economic cycle. Obviously, there's always going to be somebody who's expanding, somebody who's building a new plant, somebody who's re-engineering their line, but it's very rarely a consistent market. It's much more common for it to just suddenly be everyone wants to upgrade their lines. Everyone's expecting a huge economic upturn and they have a bunch of savings. All right, see you, Dom. And so that's when everyone is investing in their plants, and so there's a lot of industrial construction work going on. But if the economy is in kind of a downturn, then it all pretty much stops. Like, all the plant managers are thinking, okay, now it's time to save. We got to save and focus on selling products. And being in industrial construction, it actually being in a yeah, of course, Stump. Except I generally am lurking because, as you know, I'm living the ranch life out here, chasing the damn sheep and fixing air conditioners and not writing my stuff. But yeah, I will hunker down and do some writing tonight after the stream. We will have our writing session for Oso Grande tomorrow, which will be fun. I'll try and see how many people want to. Oh, hi. Yeah. Well, mostly just me acknowledging Owen's criticisms of my essay, uh, ranch life, and some general philosophy things, and how objectively Eric's stream was better than mine. And he shouldn't be down on himself. I think Eric is freaking awesome, and I would love to be in a room with him because I think we could have a really fun debate on education. That would be interesting because I know he doesn't agree with me because I am autistically free market, and he thinks I believe that he thinks that public education is a net good, or it was at one point, and I disagree. So that would be fun to talk about because I think he disagrees. But if he does agree with that, yeah, that's the main thing. Is I was using like my reading material has been all pretty well, not exactly modern. Let's put it that way. So I used a turn of phrase that was pretty common like 100 years ago. Venti, oh, thou dost just vent thy spleen upon me. Yeah, right out of Shakespeare, and I should have realized that. I really should have realized I can't use straight up Shakespearean verbiage. So I want to hone in more on the idea of common individuation. That would be fun. I want to hone in on that because I think that if we look at individuation as something that's common and that we all have in common, I think that the barriers between the races will be less visceral because like obviously these genetic groups are disparate from each other to a sufficient degree that they're recognizable in both, you know, statistical aggregates and to the naked eye, which is fine. I mean, like, we all adapted to specific environments and we were under certain pressures uh, to adapt to that led us to have different kinds of talents, which is good. So if we just recognize our talents as individuals and we don't care about what skin color particular talents happen to be aggregated in to a greater or lesser degree, I think that would be a net benefit to everybody's lives. I think that anyone who adopts the attitude of yeah, there are differences in the aggregates of what are nominally called races of humans, sure, but every one of them is still an individual, and it doesn't matter if there's a greater number of great writers who happen to be Jewish or great athletes who happen to have black skin. That's not a really big deal. So I want to hone in on that idea a little bit more, and I think I'm going to get away with venting spleen, and I think I'll just go with maybe I'll just call it venting hatred. I'll get rid of venting spleen and call it that. And just hone in on that idea of individuality, common individuality, because there is no other human in the world like you in all time, and every other human is just like that. I think that's important. I think that's really important. And I think that if you are actually genuinely hateful, the fact that everyone is an individual, I think that fact becomes I think that fact makes it impossible to not hate all of humanity unless you're hating another individual specifically. I think it's possible to hate one person or all people. You can't just hate men, or you can't just hate the blacks or the Jews. I think you end up actually hating everybody, but you have your outlet for it. Just like somebody who's abusive, they have their victim who they abuse, because that way their self-destructive tendencies are directed somewhere that isn't themselves. I think it's the coward's way of avoiding dealing with your own internal problems. That's what I think this hatred is. I think it's cowardly. I think it's cowardly to be a racist. And I don't think you're actually a racist. I think you're a misanthrope, and you don't want to deal with that. I think it's cowardly to be a misogynist, and I don't think you're a misogynist either. I think you're a misanthrope, and you don't want to deal with that. So I want to hone in on that. And it has been an hour of barely structured rambling. And I didn't get embarrassed and click out, which is nice. This has been Field Talk. This has been Field Talk. I am the Field, also known as Field of Bears. If you enjoyed the stream, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be notified. You can follow me on Twitter at Field of Bears. I'm also on Gab and Minds. And I just made a new Facebook. I will get on providing you guys with links to that. I'll link all my stuff with links in all of the linking places. It'll be really easy to find me. And I will continue pursuing these ideas with you guys, as well as reminding you that socialism always ends in starvation and genocide. Have a great night, guys.